Welcome back, everyone. Today we look at the Trio poster. It's now available. Two pages are available for the price of $6. So you would be able to get your hands on it. Click the link down in the detail or wherever you could get that link, and you would be able to pay and get your name in. I would send you with your name and email and a copy of the Trio poster, printable in the large format or otherwise. You would be able to print it. The idea is for you to have it stocked up so that you could reflect on it every morning during your meditation and every night during your meditation. The Trio poster. What is the Trio protocol? Well, the Trio protocol is a simple protocol that speaks about how we go about our life and what is happening in our life as we go about our life, living every day. And we all are doing activities or we are not doing activities, so we think, but what we are actually doing is somehow stimulating an organ, a cell, or the entire body by our expressions, whether in the environment, on the physical environment outside or inside, which means in your head. So your thought process, all that we are doing is stimulating. So when you look at that kind of orange pink part here of the Trio poster, which is where you start, you actually start with number 2. All that we are doing is stimulating ourselves. We are stimulating the body, and meaning that we are stimulating certain cells. So if you want to look at it from a point of view of eating, let's say you eat something that has sources of glucose, that would be carbohydrates. If you eat carbohydrates, you would be stimulating certain cells in your stomach, certain cells and certain hormones to be created, and you would also of course be stimulating the pancreas to create that hormone called insulin. So that's the internal. However, if you are outside and you are having a beautiful evening, the sun is setting and you are enjoying yourself, you are also stimulating the brain, or you are stimulating other organs because the sun is hitting on your skin. The cells of the skin is being stimulated, and you are now going to create a new set of hormones, or a set of hormones that will be enjoyable. Now in the both scenarios, you would, okay, let me give you a third scenario to just bring across this point. If you are having an argument with someone, like you're driving and somebody cut you in a lane, you may get angry, and for that little moment you have stimulated a certain amount of hormones that is not the best for you or the most enjoyable for you. What happens when you do that kind of what we call negative type stimulation? That would bring it to a point where the hormones don't want to be created again, so they get down regulated, or they disappear from the system. They turn back into amino acids or whatever that created them, and so you don't want to have that experience going on and on and on. Now in some cases, some persons hold on to these bad experiences and they continue to create the hormones consistently in the from the mental state. We need to deregulate that or get rid of those things, and that's what the whole counseling and traumatic scenarios are about. At the same time, if you have an enjoyable experience, the cells of the body wants to remember that, so what they would do is try to become stronger and push you to give them that experience again and again and again. And every time you have that enjoyable or that rewarding experience, the body remembers it and the body strengthens itself, or it tries to strengthen itself because it's enjoying or having certain positive type experiences. So the stimulation on the body, that section, it tries to give you a very good picture of what is happening, um, with a number of popular example of types of stimulation that is well known, I guess, across the world, and some of those that we try to avoid, but we do have interaction with those type of stimulation. For example, arguing, feuding, there we try to avoid them, but they are the types that we consider to be more negative. But the whole goal here with this part of the Trio protocol, that orange part here, is that we are stimulating. Now, once you stimulate an organ, a cell, you basically go to point number 1, which is focus now on the body. When the stimulation ceases, calms down, stop, and it stops generally when you go to sleep, but generally when you go to sleep, that's when the real cessation takes place. But before that, you do move from a very high heightened state of aggression or heightened state of awareness to a lower state before you go to sleep. And take for example an argument, which is a high form of stimulation. You do get calmed down because your friends are telling you calm down, so you calm down. Now you are going in a state where the body would try to break those chemicals apart. because it may not want to experience this again, or if it wants to experience it, it would actually create new cells to remember and create new hormones to actually store memory in the cells to remember the experience because it liked it, or funny enough, maybe it didn't like it, but it just enjoyed something about it. Is addictive. And so that's when the body now is saying, I need to up enhance an experience, meaning I need to remember an experience, I need to store it, I need to make the cells better to hold on to it, or I need to recreate. And recreate comes about when it did not enjoy an experience and it wants to get rid of that whole experience, so it just basically wipes and recreate. Irregardless of which process that happens to the body, this organ, or the cells at this point in time, whether it's an up enhance or a recreation, the body is stimulated and it goes for A or B, right? And so at that moment, the mode that is being used, and that is not when you're sleeping, we are speaking about when you come from any stimulation, whether it's you sitting in the sun and you really enjoy it, or you had a heat wave, or you are in the AC and it's cold, or you're in snow and it's cold, or you're in a choir and you're singing, or whatever the experience. You went to school, you went to work, you are stimulating an organ, a cell, a tissue. You are stimulating, and therefore once you move away from that activity, the body would move into a mode of trying to get those specific cells that was stimulated into the restorative mode. And at that point is when the body now goes into the state of saying, I need those nutritional molecules. And that is when the demand comes for those nutritional molecules that we refer to as amino acids, essential amino acids, or amino acids of all 22 sorts, the 9 essential being critical, or the 8 essential. The fatty acids of all sorts that you could get, that is, that is known by us. We know the fish gives us the omega-3, or the fatty acids from the fish is the marine type fatty acids, omega-3 and omega-6s, wherever you could get those. Well, omega-3 specifically from the fish, the EPA and the DHA, and from the land animals you get the omega-6. Wherever you could get your omega, whether it's your supplement, the body is in need of those at this point in time. So maybe you would have had your supplements, or you would have had good meats. And of course, diet becomes very simple when you start thinking that way, because all that you are saying is, where do I get my sources of amino acids? You think about eggs, fish, meat, beef, ruminant animals, goat, lamb, deer, whatever your ruminant source of animal is, including poultry and turkey and eggs. You start saying, well, I'm getting my amino acids and I'm getting my fatty acids, so all that I have to do is make sure that I have my amino acids and my fatty acids, well, at least in the mouth, through meats sources, and they would hopefully digest in your stomach and then digest in your small intestine and get absorbed to the liver. The fact of the matter is, you need to know that you are supplying your body with these key essential amino acids, fatty acids, and of course the vitamins, trace minerals, and other vital minerals. Once these are supplied, the body now, when it hits the restoration mode, it says, I have the nutritional molecules. I could repair the cell if its repair have to repair, or I could up enhance the cell, meaning I could make the cell grow into a stronger, better body that could remember an experience and make the experience better for the next day or the next time that the experience comes about. So the questions on that first slide is, what are your sources of amino acids? If you are a vegetarian, you have to ask yourself these questions very, very deeply. If you are eating meat and mixing it with your glucose sources of plants, you have to be very careful here, because you might be doing a wonderful thing by inputting your meat in your mouth and holding on to a lot of glucose with your meat, like you have your beef, your rice, and everything tied up together in your eating patterns. And so when you eat like that, you then start putting glucose along with amino acids. The rule of amino acid is that it should be in an acidic environment, the acidic stomach, for a long time to break down the meat to the polypeptides and then into the amino acids. And of course, that's later on in the intestine, really redefine and get individual amino acids broken from the peptide chains. Now, without a good soak in your acidic stomach, you would have undigested meat or undigested protein, and that is where a lot of our issues are coming from. We are mixing carbohydrates, which by nature does not want to stay in the acidic environment. So imagine the tug of war we have introduced on ourselves by eating meat and carbohydrates together. Carbohydrates want to come out, but protein needs to stay with fats, or to really get the digestive process of protein and fats for about between 2 to 4 hours. However, we have protein carbohydrates who is trying to pull out to get into the duodenum to go down into the small intestine for its own digestion. So it is quite instructive to go back to Moses and ask the question in Exodus, why were we instructed to have our meats in the evening, be filled with our meats in the evening, eggs, fish, liver, the ruminant animals, fool ourselves with those things in the evening, and in the morning we could, if you want to have your carbohydrates, you could have your carbohydrates in the morning, a source of glucose. Carbohydrates would be a source of glucose, and that would give you glucose to power you up for the day if you want to be very, very active. If you're not very active, then please tamper down your source of glucose, because the liver knows how to make glucose. So your question here is, what are my sources of amino acids? You need to list them, you need to understand them, and you need to work with them. And that becomes simple for the person who's conscientious, because they would know, hey, amino acids by the human body basically has to be ruminant animals, eggs, poultry, and other types of animal based meats. Very simple. Fish, meat. So you don't have to ask yourself, well, what do I have to eat to get this or that? No, you just eat meat. And specifically, you should know that the time of eating the meat is very critical, to have the meat early evening, 2, 3, 4 o'clock, so that you give yourself 3 or 4 hours with meat in your stomach to digest in an acidic environment, which is your acidic stomach, and you get your amino acid being released from the stomach in the chyme through the duodenum, and that goes into the small intestine bit by bit, slowly. And of course, in the small intestine, you have more digestion of polypeptides into amino acids and absorption, eventually going up to the portal vein for the liver to have a whole storehouse of amino acids. The second one you need to ask, what are your sources of fatty acids? Now, if you have to ask yourself this here, for the meat eating person, they would then say to themselves, well, I don't have to ask that, because if I'm eating meat, land animals, ruminants, I'm getting omega-6 supply in great quantities, and some of those fatty acids that human beings don't speak about a lot, they are also included there. And we also have, if once you're eating some marine fish and other things like that, you still would be getting your omega-3s from your fish. So you as a person who have been eating meats and fish, eggs, have been supplying yourself with amino acids and fatty acids, fortunately, in a beautiful way, without you having to know all the critical science. You don't even have to eat anything else. You are basically doing this, and once you've been eating the bones and drinking the different broths and the different soups from these animals, like a turkey soup or a fish soup, you are basically also supplying yourself with a lot of trace minerals and vitamins from those things. Of course, whatever else you eat on a day-to-day basis gives you some things. Now, if you are a plant-based eater, that is where you have to critically assess yourself, to ask yourself, where am I getting these amino acids from? Is it really true that I'm getting them from the plants? If that is so true, why are we so protein deficient in our bodies as plant-based eaters after 6 or 7 years? Why are we down in vitamin B12 as vegetarian type eaters, deficiency type eaters after 5 or 6 years? Because the storehouse of those nutrients in the body takes 5 or 6 years before they really run out, except you are really physically aggressive. You take about 5 years to draw down on your storehouses, which is your bone, your liver, and other places where nutrients are stored for long-term illnesses and for when you're fasting and stuff like that. So a vegetarian or type person needs to ask themselves this question. Again, more stimulation means more nutrients you would need to have. Think about every activity in your life as a form of stimulation. If you are a person working in an office, you are less stimulated than a person who's doing what? Running up and down, going to the gym, still coming back in the evening and exercising. Why are you exercising in the evening? Because it gives you a little form of distress, so it might be creating some happy hormones for you. But again, even that is a process of actual stimulation. Even though it's an happy, enjoyable process, you are stimulating to create more goodness for yourself, but it's stimulation. And when you finish stimulation, anytime you are close with stimulation, you need to supply these 3 essential categories here: the amino acids, the fatty acids, the trace vitamins and minerals. And hence we would have learned that from, I guess, anecdotal evidence with the bodybuilders. They know that they have to go and work out. That's the stimulation. But after the stimulation, they would supply themselves with Well, protein powder, which this is not what I'm advising. I'm not advising protein powder, but they would have gotten protein powder because protein powder basically is a source of amino acids, and in some cases, based on the mixture, you may have fatty acids. But eggs, meat, liver, fish supplies those things for a very healthy person. If you are not healthy, then you need to look at amino acid supplement or fatty acid supplements, and we could discuss those if you are interested. And when you go to page 2 now, because we are there, you go to page 2, you would start seeing all the details on amino acids. So meats for amino acids, hence the main reason why we are told to eat meats. And again, counting on Moses in Exodus chapter 16, I think, you would see that Moses is advising he got these words from the higher powers to eat your meats in the evening. Fill yourself with meats in the evening. Yes, this is the one here. So where the Lord says to Moses, tell the Israelites, tell them at twilight evening time, you will eat meat, and in the morning you will be filled with bread. So bread, of course, as we know, represents glucose. So meat, of course, would be digesting to give us amino acids, and not just amino acids. Yes, meat contains all the essential amino acids for the human body. These are those that you cannot mix, so you have to bring them in through your mouth. And the meats also contains fatty acids. So when you eat meats, and of course you're not speaking about one type of meat, today you might have beef, tomorrow you might have fish, but you want to mix them up. But you want to ensure, well, things like eggs gives you a lot of minerals, but of course the beef liver, the beef, sometimes you want to put a little piece of liver once in a while, gives you the essential and trace minerals and stuff like that. And you also look around for where you might be needing of shortages, you might want to supplement, and you get that into your protocol of understanding. So the TRIO protocol is here to help you to get an idea of how to keep your critical things for your health, how to get it in play. Notice we have not shown on the TRIO protocol, there is nothing here that speaks about fructose, which is fructose being a very critical molecule, not for the human liver. So you should not try, you should try as much as possible to understand that fructose is not sugar that is needed by the liver, but it is the sugar that goes to the liver when we take in multiple of substances. We don't speak about those things because they are not needed. Even glucose, we don't speak about it because glucose is abundantly available from everything that you see around you that is in a plant kingdom. It is glucose. Apart from fungus is not in the plant kingdom, but plants are glucose. Find it, cause it what it will, whether it's the leaf, whether it is the fruit, whether it is the stem, all that it is just a different presentation of glucose. And therefore, when the ruminants eat the plants, they are the ones taking on the burden of converting some of the glucose into more glucose and converting it in the fermentation chambers into proteins that could become metabolized in their bodies, and then we eat their bodies or their meat, and we get the amino acids and the fatty acids. Of course, human beings have a capability of getting some, but we do not mix our food well, except you are very much into the dietarians and the culinaries. You understand how to mix your beans, you understand how to soak your beans, you understand how to do the science of converting beans into an actual digestible system. Therefore, you get your beans, 16 bean soup, 12 bean soup, and you get yourself some proper amino acids. And then, of course, when you cook your beans, you would have dropped a lot of fatty acids with coconut milk or coconuts in it to ensure that you have the fatty acids, or at least some fatty acids, at least some, because the coconut would give you just a few fatty acids, unlike piece of meat or fish. So thank you for viewing, and hopefully you take a look, consider this protocol for your betterment. And we have, of course, page I have page 2, then page 4 and page 5, page amino acids and fatty acids discussion, and then we would speak about this, and then there would be a sixth page for that is not shown here because it's not a reference page. It's a page that will just try to bring the summary together for all those who may. So if you want a copy of this, again, $6 right now for this copy. You would be able to print it, download it, edit it, write on it, use it as your guide and as your method of building and appreciation for where you are and where you want to go in your health journey. Thank you for viewing, and looking forward to see you on the next one.